Hey, what's up, Internet? Kris Krüg here. I'm checking in from the Other World Festival on Vancouver Island, and I got my old homeboy Robert Scales here.
Sup, internet?
Yeah. Do we have to call you Professor now?
No, 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 no. That's cool.
Or
I can stay with
CEO, maybe?
scales. No, not that either. That's former
Miss,
title.
all right, Mr. Scales. Mr. Scales it is. All right. Um, Scales and I know each other from the olden days. We've best friends for a long time. We used to run companies that worked very closely together, and then we joined forces and stuff. So we've gotten to do all sorts of amazing tech things together, and here we are again, man.
Here we are again. I mean,
Remember that
15 years
fucking
ago. It's amazing how time flies. I was actually watching your video with Frank, and oh my God, man, that was opening a whole can of, you know,
that
whole,
guy's on
it's
fire,
kind of like
man.
going back in the time machine,
Yeah,
Like, and I've
Frank
been
has
watching his
done.
work. His work is quite great. Like I've been
Yeah,
following for quite a while, and there was some valid point. Yeah. Anyway,
man,
digressing.
his brain is on fire, and the way that he's developed as an artist. I kept calling him an illustrator, and I'm really doing him a disservice because he runs these huge UI UX teams now for ad agencies and stuff. So it's like he's like, yeah, I'm kind of an illustrator in my free time, but I'm like, you're an artist. Let's just call you an artist then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the beauty of like, the evolution of roles. Like as we're aging and we've been taking on different tasks, like and going from creative directors, executive producers, like CEOs and so on. Like, like at some point, it all merged together. And I think it's really great to see. The last few years has been really interesting. Maybe I'm going on a tangent, but the last few years has been really interesting because we see some of the old ethos that we had when we ran Rain City, Bright, and the Web 2.0 open source world. And the idea of coming together, serving each other, helping, like supporting, like, like barbecue
Well,
Thursdays, like the hackathon Thursdays, those things that we used to do on the rooftop. And I
let's
think it's, yeah,
let's
sorry.
deep dive into that. No, 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 not sorry at all. It's perfect. I just want to let people know why you're here and what we're going to talk about. So, I've been making these videos. It's cool. I mean, and then we'll go right
Yeah,
back to where you were. I've been making these videos in the last couple months just because I've been inspired by AI, specifically the generative AI stuff, as an artist and photographer. Really gone down the rabbit hole of trying to understand these tools and how they affect my life and stuff. And talking about rabbit hole, Scales, who, as he just alluded to, we knew each other, 15 years ago during the Web 2.0 years, he is Captain AI. He's got a best-selling book out on Amazon right now about ChatGPT. He's teaching and consulting about AI to lots of different folks. Hey, would you pull that book back up and hold it still for a sec? I think it came through a little blurry. Don't be bashful, man. You're the
I'll
fucking
take the good copy that is not with the
yeah.
notes and the other one,
And
for reviews only.
I'll just go ahead and throw down a promo right away. World Oceans Day is coming up, and Scales is
It's
giving
right.
away the book. It's today.
It's right now. It's today. It's right now.
Yeah.
If the video is going on today, then it will. If it's going on tomorrow, then it's too late. It's done next time.
Well, if it goes out today, go get your book. If it goes out tomorrow, I hope you got your book.
Yep.
Anyway, Scales, tell us a little about what you're up to and about the book, and then let's dive back into some of the history stuff and talk about how we got here.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that like the last 3 years was kind of interesting because we saw like for me at least, not to go too much into like what I've done over the last 15 years, but you know, I, I've stayed in technology in a way or another as an advisory, but I was living on my little island and literally doing my little thing. And then COVID came along and, I decided to come back to Canada for whatever reason. And so that was a really good jump because it gave me the ability to get back into something that I had so much passion for long time ago, but I'd somehow lost my path in it or just didn't feel the passion that I had and moved on to another passion. That's the thing about passionate people is sometimes it comes and goes. So anyway, um, but blockchain technology, NFTs, crypto, all that stuff, I thought it was really interesting on the gaming concept, on the economy concepts for so many different things, and started like getting involved in projects that were including that. And about the same time, pre-COVID, I was playing a game called AI Dungeon, And
Hmm.
it's because I like to play Dungeons and Dragon. I mean, there's Dungeons and Dragon crap like all over the walls here. Anyway, so but yeah, so in 2019, early 2020, I started playing AI Dungeon, and it was built on GPT 2. GPT 2. So at that point, I started researching uh, models and learning models and things like that. And AI is not new to game. I mean, like it's been used in gaming for over 20 plus years. I mean, like there's games in the 90s that use some sort of basic AI. So that was the natural path is like open source technology, future tech, how things are going to be built for adding economy, how content is going to be created, generative AI. I started playing with DALI. I started playing with Mid-journey around that time. I think we were at Mid-journey 3 at that point. And so that kind of led to, all right, this is cool. And then I got lucky. I got hired by a company that was building some really cool concepts around comic books and different things. And I had um, people around me that kind of started introducing me to other really cool tools. And that led to me um, reconnecting with GPT because I hadn't done the connection initially of AI Dungeon being on GPT-2. Like it was just the tool and I used
Yeah.
it. And
Hmm.
then started connecting to that and then realized, okay, cool, I've been using that. That's similar prompt. And then I got access to OpenAI beta access and that sort of things and started playing with it. And that was last summer. And then by the time ChatGPT came out, um, I got lucky. I got laid off. That's the best thing that happened to me in the last year is um, I was able to get my time again and not work on other people's project. I mean, it's
Yeah,
great
man.
because it pays your bill, but sometime, you and I, we've owned our own companies, we've owned our own time, and sometimes we do what we do because, it pays the bill and we need to live. But
I'm
at the end of the
so
day,
fucking glad I have a job right now. This would be the worst time since the beginning of mankind to have ever had a job.
I feel like it's kind of like the early mid 90s when I started like coding in HTML and like was bringing like animated GIF and my friends were like, "Oh man, that move, that's cool." And
Yeah.
that's what it did, right? So when I got laid off just before Christmas, I jumped on my GPT model and I was like, "Okay, cool. So I have X number of dollars, I have X amount of time. I want one of the things that I do on the side, why Krug called me like professor, is because I used to teach at Vancouver Film School for 4 years, and currently I teach for the Ministry of Education. I teach for one of the school board here in Quebec, and I
For the
teach
Canadian
entrepreneurship.
Ministry of Education.
Yeah. And Quebec Ministry of Education,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
school board. Anyway, so
You don't work for the
oh,
man anymore. You are the fucking man.
anyway, so with that, like the idea was that in education, um, I was trying to figure out how I could use the tool to either develop and test my thesis about the different business model that I was going to do. Because what I did is I did an exercise. It was on December 23rd, and I basically asked ChatGPT, like, okay, so just got laid off and you're an expert in HR, midlife crisis. Like I create a 2-page prompt. You ask Frank if you like short or long prompt. I'm the king of long prompt. 1 page, 2 page prompt. I love them. Send them my way. Anyway, so I did a huge prompt and set up my case study and then passed it. Of course, ChatGPT said it was a creative thing and like he'd love to do it with me. And then we started playing and the outcome of that was 10 business model that I could start from home, be nomad, and play with the little money that I wanted. And I gave myself until June 1st to do it. So, believe it or not, the book was one of them. And so, that's the first thing that I liked. So I started working on this book that I now, like I wrote it in English, translated it in French, and now I'm distributing it. And I have free book days. I can do 5 of them with Amazon. So today's day number 2 that I'm doing. I did the first day for Earth Day. I'll probably do the next one around July 1st, maybe July 4th. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah. Pass me back the
14th for
mic for a
Bastien Day.
second, Skills.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm stopping. You can interrupt
No,
at any
no,
time because I'll just
no,
go on
no.
a
I'm
tangent.
just teasing. I'm just teasing. You just have so many great things to talk about. One thing is I'm working with a couple of people that are publishing books right now, and GPT and AI, it's changed everything, right? It just touches every single industry like the web did back in the day, and it just kind of turns them on their head. And so one of them is being an author and book publishing. And so I've been telling every single person I know that has a book coming out, you need to figure out what Scales is doing. He has maximized the tools. You are using state of the art approaches and tools to get this book out there. Let's just put it on the table. You use GPT to write the book about GPT. So your success, in my opinion, is your timing, which is luck, but really the way you promoted and distributed and marketed the book. Because that you working with the AIs wrote the fucking book, but you, I guess,
I
also
didn't
still
just
work.
do I didn't just write the book with the AI. I wrote the marketing strategy. I wrote the business plan that goes around to talk to the um, communication agencies in Montreal and around the world, the marketing agencies, because the problem right now is nobody knows how to talk to their clients. You and I have been lucky. We've got 25 years of experience working with marketing clients from Sony, Warner Brothers, and so on to NGOs, Olympics, and so on. So we understand various different case and different companies. And in that context, being able to advise, like one of my clients right now is another author. She's writing children's book and she's using Mid-journey for creating her stories. She's trying to figure out how to streamline so that her characters remain true to her vision throughout and the
Yeah.
backgrounds and the art to streamline. So
Yeah,
it's
don't worry.
process
That's
training.
coming in like 15 minutes. It's almost here.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, all these things are things that we're talking about. And communication agencies that are building like clients and they have their content strategies. You and I have been organizing from blogs and dogs in 2004, 5 to now, we've been organizing and training people on how to create content, blog, podcasts, video casts. So now it makes sense that we can talk about, hey, you can generate part of your script. You can train your model to understand your agency, your clients, your products, and then you can start working with it to do that. You and Frank were talking about Agent GPT. I mean, I set up Agent GPTs with 5 or 6 personas that I create. I literally have a persona that is letter K for you, man, which is the renegade, take out of the box marketing director that come up with the wildcat ideas in the meeting and might not be executable because of budget restrictions or the client doesn't have an idea, but it brings another dynamic to the group. And I literally created
You're
personas
warming my
from
icy
A
little
to
heart,
M.
dude.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Sorry, man. But like I have characters that are from A to M at the moment. And it started just like Alicia and Brendan, and I created different role for them. Like, like your project manager, your asset manager, and all these things. So when
Yeah.
you're working with Agent GPT, you can toss all these characters in there. Now you've trained it. It knows those characters. So
Yeah.
you're like, okay, in this case scenario, in this meeting, you have Brandon, David, and Kay that are there, and they're talking about what they're going to do for the next event. And like, so it just start talking. It knows the brand. You've done the brain dump, and it just
Yeah.
goes. And you give it a number of token. You give it a number of resource you're willing to pay. I mean, for a few bucks, what I get out is maybe 60 page of crazy blur because what Agent GPT will
Yeah.
do is he'll start. And then I call it the Groundhog Day syndrome. Okay, so think of Groundhog Day. The character gets up and he starts doing the task and he repeats the same day over and over until he's got it perfect and he can get out of the
Yeah.
loop.
I
Well,
was
Agent
just going to
GPT are
ask you
exactly that.
about this. If you're looping them,
So,
you're looping them, having
so
throwaway
they,
ideas, keep the best ideas, bring in some new ideas, loop it again.
and they do it themselves. They know because they go and see what's being done out there and they come back and they go like, yeah, the idea that like there was good, but it didn't execute well. It's really
I
trippy.
feel,
It's
I
fun.
feel like I feel like I cut you off, and people would probably like a more proper explanation. So, would you take us through how you're using the agent again specifically, and how it's going out and executing the winning idea and seeing what the results are, and then coming back and it's not winning enough, it's kind of a new idea. So, give us an overview of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So if I go too off tangent, bring me back, okay? Um, so Agent GPT for the base, if you don't know what Agent GPT is, an agent is an autonomous agent. It can do something. So think of it as a persona.
I think of it
It's a
as a prompt. I think of it as a prompt that spawns other prompts.
no. Let, let me explain my way, and then you'll understand why it's a little bit more complicated and more depth than that. So yes, Kris is right. It's a prompt that will automate auto prompt, but you can actually create multiple personas in that prompt. And if you define those personas, like your marketing exec, your uh, PR person, so let's say you're writing a book. You can say you have Brendan, that is a book publisher that is specializing in digital distribution. You have Alice, who's an expert in design branding for book publisher. You have Charlie, who's a PR person. She helps you create all the ideas that you need for your media kit and all that stuff. And then you have somebody else that help you organize event, so you can go to libraries, bookstores, and everything else to promote your book. Okay, you create the personality for those. They're a little short paragraph. Now you
Yeah,
create your prompt that Kris was saying, the automated prompt, your first prompt, and you'll say you're being hired by this person that created this book, and this is the synopsis of the book, and here's the base of the writer. Here's some links you could search if you want to. In this meeting, you have these four persona, A, B, C, D. So you just gave them the title of what they are. And
yeah,
then your task is to help me brand and market the book for Robert. So now
yes.
you send it.
Pause 1 sec. So yeah, I write my prompts like give it a role, give it some context, give it a task. And so you've taken the role part and put it into your personas and your agents. So you just have to give it the context, which is you three are in a meeting where you're developing something something, and your task is X.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
cool.
And now you go. But see, you're limiting it because you're saying your tax is X. Your task is X. I'm stopping you there and I'm saying, no. You say you want to help publish Robert. You're the agency. And so you don't give them the task. You ask them to create the list of tasks and to execute the list of tasks. So their first round of agents brainstorming, they will create the list of all the tasks that they need to do. You can start with tasks and give them the 5 tasks you want, your goal. That's better direction as management and
Mm-hmm.
expectation management for anybody that works in any organizational behavior. You have to think of them as like personas, like people. So if you
Give it
walk
a
into your meeting and you go,
goal,
give
not
me the
give it a
task,
task.
people will like be, okay, well, what do I have to deliver? What does the client want? In this case, if you give them 5 goals, they will go in more details, but they will still create the subtasks they need to do to achieve these 5 goals
Mhm.
in order
Yeah.
to deliver the task. And they will continue looping until they perfect each one of those definitions to make it the simplistic way to give you what you need to be able to go with your strategy. And the end result will be a document, depending on the number of tokens you've assigned to them, that will allow them to generate the document with all the steps that they've done, the train of thought. Think of it as
Okay.
the meeting minute, and you can see
Yeah.
everything that has been said, the idea, the thing
Yeah.
process. And now,
Let me.
once you have that document, you can go back to it. You can either export it and import it into ChatGPT as a PDF and say, summarize this in an executive
Yeah.
summary. Make sure that you highlight all the different tasks. Create a table, 4 column with date, task, category, and a description. Uh, then after that, you can go create a budget based on this,
I
on
love
the
it, dude.
creation of a
I
trip.
love it. You're using these AI agent bots to create a document that's so big and so comprehensive that the first thing you got to do is fucking plug the report back into GPT to summarize it and pull out all the action items because it's so comprehensive.
It's not just that. It's think think in the creative world that we are, you and I, when we talk and get together. There's a lot of like smoke and screens in there. So think our executive assistant after had to make sense what we wanted out of the 2 hour conversation, and that's pretty much what's happening. It's brilliant for me. Like I do that. So in context, why I started using this is because in my role when I'm teaching, I have on average 7 entrepreneur per group, and we get 4 groups per semesters. So I have anywhere between 20 to 25 students per semesters that I have to coach, and I do about 10 hours with them. And the whole point of the coaching is to evaluate their business model and what they're doing, and how they're going to evolve their business model. So I use agents to plug in my conversations that I have with my students, my entrepreneur, for their business model. And I ask GPT and the agents to give me report of the best way, market research, things like that, create some sub strategies, which then
Yeah.
help me in my 10-hour coaching session to assign them tasks to validate their business model and go get their market research and everything they need for their business plan and financing. So that's how I started
So
testing it.
yeah. Um, I want to tell you about the like mental health agent bots that I'm writing, but I want to get your feedback because I'm doing it on a pretty simple level so far. I think that there's a lot more I can do. But before I do that, you're talking about tokens, and so that makes you an advanced user, and that means that a lot of people who are beginner, intermediate users doesn't really know what you're talking about because they're using GPT and they're not using tokens. So there's
Yeah,
three levels of GPT as I see it. There's the free, and then there's the pro, and then there's the API, the tokens that you're talking about. So will you give
it's
us an
actually,
overview?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, I cut you, man.
you're always just cutting me to tell me that I'm wrong when really I'm
No,
asking you the fucking question. So don't tell me I'm wrong and then answer. Just fucking answer.
yeah. So I wasn't saying no because you're wrong. I was saying um, the the idea of the token. Let's go back.
Yeah,
So for everybody that knows what ChatGPT is, you know what it is because you've seen it. If you don't,
yeah.
buy the book. Um, there'll be a link somewhere. Um,
Buy it for free today on World Oceans Day.
exactly. Now, the thing is, the way token work is think of it as so you need to first talk about the model. The model is generative and it needs to read the amount of information that you put in the sentence to generate basically the output. That's the simplest way of putting it. To generate the output and read the input, it calculate that in tokens. So when I say I love writing long tokens, I like spending my money, I guess, because the longer your prompt is, the more token you're using. It costs a
Can I
certain
pause?
amount of money.
I gotta pause you again though because people don't even know what you're talking about yet because they use
Yeah,
GPT but they use it through the OpenAI website where they go and they type something into a
yeah.
search box.
All right. Let's start even basic than that. So when you're using it through OpenAI, you're basically logging in with your Google account and you're not paying any money. That's
When he
a
says OpenAI, he means through the OpenAI API.
no. I mean the OpenAI website to go to ChatGPT.
Okay, very good.
So
Yeah.
anybody can go to ChatGPT, like, well,
Yeah.
it's chat.openai.com,
Yeah.
but you go there and you can use ChatGPT by logging in through Google. That costs you nothing. The next step to that is you
And
can
you're
go
getting
to
version 3.5 there.
3.5, which is the standard right now, is what they call the default for the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you can pay $20 US a month, $23 with the taxes and all that.
And
Um,
that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm on
yeah,
this
that's what
one.
I'm
Yeah.
doing as well. And that gives you ChatGPT Plus. ChatGPT GPT Plus opens up to more tools. So now you have the default, which you use in the free one. You have access to ChatGPT 4,
The new
GPT
web one, the
4.
new web one.
Yeah, there's ChatGPT 4 based non-web that is faster, smarter. So ChatGPT 3.5 is kind of your high school student and has the naivety of a high school student. ChatGPT 4 is more your university interns and has a little bit more understanding. It's a little bit slower, but definitely better output. And now you have GPT-4 browsing, which has the ability to go on the web and search to validate what it's going to say to you or to find more information to give you a better output. And you have
Yeah.
GPT plugin, which now you can connect with external plugin from Zapier, Wolframe Alpha,
Yeah.
so many different companies. I mean, it opened
It's
with 10
crazy.
and
It's
now there's
crazy.
30
Yeah.
plus.
Mhm.
So those plugins give you the ability to add modules so that when you're using your GPT model, you can then do something specific like I want to go on a holiday, find me some itinerary to go on a trip for 12 days to Italy, find me some restaurants, some place to go see, find me some reviews based on hotels. My budget is X amount of dollar per day, and it can create some sort of itinerary. You can even have it pull it out into an Excel spreadsheet and all that. So the idea is now you have the different models. So those are simple, they're out of the box. You pay as you go, software as a service. Now you have another thing is that OpenAI, the company, allow people that want to go beyond this and use the technology to build on. And so they
Yeah,
created an
and to
application.
build, and this is where people are building their applications. So if you have an application that uses AI and you wanted to use GPT to power it, you would sign up for this service, and you can get access to the 3.5 version right away. But you got to get on the wait list for the 4.0.
That's it. So the way it works is you can go to, if you Google search API OpenAI, you will find the link. It brings you there, and then you can get the 3.5 version access. There's something called a playground that you can go in and you can even test in there. And you can use that, create an API key, and now use something else. Like earlier, I was talking about agent GPT. So you could use the API key to plug in into an agent GPT website so that you can use your API to create things because they give you access to it, but it's limited because they pay for their own money. So if you
Yeah,
have your own
yeah,
API, now you're not limited to their restriction of token because it's your own budget. You can do whatever you want.
yeah,
So
yeah.
sky's the limit. Now, what Kris said is you can always apply for the next version. And so what it is OpenAI have applications that you can jump in waitlist for the version 4. For version 5 is already an application list somewhere. And so what you do is you go within those contexts and you apply and you put your case study. I'm going to build an app, or I want to test it because I'm an educator. Like I'm writing a book and I want to test the application. I need more token. And the other thing too is if OpenAI like your project, they might contact you and offer you an allocation of token to test your project. So now you get sponsored or support from OpenAI company, whatever their legal standing is,
Yeah.
to support you in your project. So those are the different level of access to the platform. And so when you get to the API, if you want to go to GPT-4, now this is what I was explaining earlier, where you're paying X number of sub pennies for the question you ask, and you pay X amount of sub pennies. I'm saying sub pennies because it's less than a cent for the prompt,
Understand?
and a token is
Yes,
about 1,000 words. So
that's the
when you
proper
do
English,
that,
professor.
yeah. So when you spend that token, which is about 1,000 words of characters in your statement, that costs you maybe 2 cents. And so that's the question, and the reply that you'll get will cost you about 6 cents. That's the price more or less with 0.06 cents. But that's more or less the cost. I don't know. I haven't checked recently, but it's the cost more or less that the API will, and you get billed monthly and all that. You can see how much each one of your prompt daily, well, you don't see your prompt daily, but you see your usage daily. So, but
So
yeah.
once you have gone this route, you've signed up for the API version of it. Talk to me about like how you get that set up, how you access it, and then specifically how you train it.
Um, well, it depends what you're going to do. So, first of all, the API is open. You can do everything, right? So, a lot of the time, the usage of API for the average user, like
Let's
students,
talk
you,
about
me,
let's talk about how you tied it to Agent GPT.
yeah. So, the way it goes is you'll go to OpenAI, you'll go into the API section of the site, you'll sign in. Um, you'll have to set up your account base, name, user, and all that. You'll have to plug in your financial detail, credit card, and everything else. Once that's done, you can go into the API section. You can generate an API. The way
Key.
OpenAI work is it create the key. It shows it to you once. You can copy it, and then it won't show you again. So if you didn't copy it and put it somewhere in your document that are locked or whatever you do for your security, you'll never be able to get that. So, and you can name it, you can label it. So let's say you're using Agent GPT third party website because it's done on another party. It's called Rework, whatever. So when you're going to use that, you can name your API key here in OpenAI. So you'll go and name it, copy it, make sure you paste it somewhere that you can keep it for later, and then go into your Agent GPT website. So there's several options. If you Google search, you will find one that you want to use. Once you get in, same thing. You'll log in into your account, most likely using your Google ID or your Microsoft ID. Once you're in, you'll go into your settings. Into your settings, you'll have an ability to insert your private API key. You'll paste your key in there, and now it'll activate it. If you have access to GPT-4, you'll use that API key. If you have access to GPT 3.5, you'll use that API key. So that's based on that, right? And so once that's activated, when you're using Agent GPT, it'll be based on your API key, your cost. So you won't be limited. So because the important thing here is that
does the API key tie into your own instance of GPT somewhere on OpenAI servers? Like, is it a separate and discrete instance, or is it tied to kind of the global instance?
from what I understand, the API ties into the access to the tool, to the communication, to the server. It's the product that you're using that will have their base local saves and everything else within the app. I think so. You're getting into two steps further, right? So what you're saying right now, what you're saying right now is for people that are developing their own app. For somebody that is just integrating an API key to access something, like here's an example. When you create a WordPress site,
just that where I'm going those scales is a lot of our people want to make chatbots right now. They want to harvest their whole
I'm coming to that in 2 seconds. Just give me one moment. I'll explain and then I'll lead to that. Man. Okay. So the first example that I'm giving is perfect for people like if you're in Web 2.0 and you've built a WordPress site and you use Google Analytics, you had to go to Google to get their API key to tie in your Google Analytics account. It might have been just your analytics code, but it's the same principle. It's the same thing, right? So that gives you the ability to integrate the tool and use that. And you can get the report on how you're using it. And of course, analytics goes more in detail. But the point is just the usability. Now, there's people that takes it to the next stage to what we've been talking. So remember, there's people that just log into the website, they use it, they don't pay. There's people that log into the website, they pay, they get different models. There's people that log into the website, create an API, use it into third-party services. And then there's people that log into the website and get API, and then they go maybe into builder tools or their own tools and build. And so if you go and build their tools, then you're doing machine learning. You can create your own instance. You can create your database so that you know what is happening. It's learning from it. You are setting some parameters. You're going to tutor it. You're going to give it a value reward. So I don't know if you've seen the progress on this, but until recently, OpenAI and most language model were being trained on output, and at the end of the output, you would say yay or nay, and then you would ask it to redo. But now we're going with the progressive learning, reward learning, right? Like a dog. Like when your dog is like, sit, oh, good dog, cookie, you know? So now we do a reward program with the AI where it's like, oh, cool, I wasn't wrong. I learned from this. We're moving from, no, you were wrong to, well, actually, think of it like you tried to do this, but it's not the right result. If you had turned right, you would have been at the store. But the store is not on the left.
It's like nudging the AI in the direction of correctness instead of saying, no, you're kind of gradually pushing it there.
Positive reinforcement, the same as we do with children most of the time, I think, in school, or we should do as parents, I assume. Like positive reinforcement is the key word that we're looking for here, right? Yeah. And so now they're seeing that because the AI is moving into because OpenAI is moving in that type of training, it really changed the way the model is outputting. And so to go back to what we were talking to a second ago, people are developing apps. They'll use that. So for you that is building a chatbot, who somebody else that is doing a chatbot, what you could do is you could go to a company that offers the chatbot infrastructure, that offer you the tool. You plug in your API in there, and inside of that, you will start training your chatbot within what you want the journey of the experience of your chatbot to be. So for those who didn't know, I own a dive resort that's in Bali. So if there's a chatbot, there is, you can use it and it talks to you about the experience of what you can do, booking and this and that. It's very basic. It's, onboarding. But if you go into more in depth where maybe if we're talking mental health, you have a chatbot that comes in and then you create the experience. Like, what's the intake? How are you doing today? Welcome. Um, in this entry of this chatbot, you'll be able to do these different activities. So what
Yeah.
would you like to do today? And it's almost like we've been trained for this all of our life. It's like the choose your own adventure from Livingston's from
Yeah.
79 to 87 and all these things where we're making choices. The railroad in one way or another, because we need to guardrail these experience, but the end goal is to bring them towards either a service. So that's what a bot does, right? The AI-built bot is a specific experience for your user based on where you want to take them. And so now the question is, what tool do you need? What do you want? How much entry data do you want to put into your application when you're building it? And that's where you're going to decide if you want to build your tech stack alone, you want to use a third party, and now at that point, you're going to have higher cost because if you're building a third party, maybe the third party gives you some resources, maybe they're already sponsored, maybe it doesn't cost you as many tokens because OpenAI already has a partnership. So there's all these things that come into that. And we're only talking about OpenAI right now, but there's plenty of other models that exist out there that are open source that do different things than that,
Yeah.
that you can use, that are models that you can use. So
And
yeah.
I've been noticing, I don't know if you guys have noticed the bass drop. Sometimes when Scales is talking here, I notice my microphone light up. I'm at this Burning Man regional event on Vancouver Island called Otherworld. And it kicks off today, and the fucking huge bassy soundstage behind me just started dropping the wub, 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 wub. And
It's
so
not that bad on my end, so I don't know.
that's awesome.
But
That's awesome, man. Um, you know, let's just take a step back again. So chatbot doesn't sound that interesting on the surface. I understand chat, I understand bots, but I've been thinking it a lot lately as like a first crack at digital immortality. I mean, Scales, you can only be in one place at one time, but you've made all these YouTube videos and all these podcasts, and you're in all these books, and you have all these conversations that you've had with people, and they've all been recorded. I could feed it all into GPT, and I could be having this conversation with not you. I could literally be having the same conversation with a bot, especially once I have the ability to put real time video on skin on top of the android's fucking face. Like, you could live forever, dude. It doesn't just know what you knew in the past, it learned what you knew in the past. And based on that, it knows how you're probably going to think in the future. And it's probably pretty fucking close.
so now we're entering into AI ethics, and that's a good conversation, man. That's one of my favorites. The book has 11 chapters, and yes, I did freaking write the book, and 2 chapters are dedicated around ethics and copyrights and different things in there. And Krug and I, long time ago, many moons ago, we worked with a guy that was really awesome, that was still really awesome, like Brett Gaylor. And
Hey man, Rip a Remix Manifesto is still to this day one of my all-time favorites. And it's kind of also like if you're gonna be my friend or if I'm gonna date you, we gotta watch this film because it just has worked its way into my whole philosophy and vocabulary. You're not gonna understand with me without watching it. So Brett Gaylor, bring it on.
yeah, yeah, and that with Creative Commons for me is a foundation. And so now we're talking into copyright, but what you're talking raise ethics, and this is where it raises ethics is on sociology, psychology based in pure social science. there's a process that we go through in life. Mortality is part of that process. Grieving and so on is part of that process. If we create immortality, it removes a layer of grief that we have that will no longer exist. And how is that going to affect the human psyche? I'm not, I don't want to get into the debate of it, but that's a conversation
Why
that is
not?
coming out quite a
Why not?
bit
Why
into like the
not?
people that are into the whole debate of immortality. And so I'm not opposed to it. I actually am somewhat of that opinion that if I
Are
can
you a chat?
put it,
Are you a chat bot? Did you just hear me say the word immortality, and now you're spitting back to me everything you know about immortality?
no, it's just, it's a conversation that comes back quite a fair bit with people. And um, I was lucky a couple of weeks back, which will come out sometime later. Krug introduced me to his peeps, and I was in a podcast with them or a recording, and there'll be something coming out of it. I don't know how much I can talk about it, and so, but
He's
the
talking
people that
about
were,
my day job is with Future in Review, and Future Review had an AI ethics roundtable for our private members, and Scales was one of the panelists there. And so I don't think anything will be coming out for the world, but yeah, we do these workshops all the time for our clients.
and so some of the other people on the panel were well celebrated, and I don't know if we can mention those people, but
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of them, yeah. So David Brin was one of them, and David is a spectacular human being, and that's one of the conversation that was coming out of this is, you know, immortality, like, and the role of like, you know, like we get into like tinfoil hat idea at this moment with like, you know, what is the government doing? And if we have agents and we're using our agents to be pure and we're afraid about the government corrupting our data, you know, like there's a lot of ethics right now around, you know, how AI is trained and, you know,
Yeah,
is it
but I
woke?
mean,
Is it this? Is it that?
my answer on the surface to that is like, yo, government of Canada, they already had AI working in the background. Military of USA, they had this
For
shit
sure.
already, man.
A hundred
We're
percent.
we're we're getting it now. It's a leveling of the playing field, an equalizer.
So,
If not,
but
if not even just to train our brains, like even if the results now can't stack up against military AI results, at least our brains are moving in a direction where we can fucking understand what's actually going on in the world now.
so that brings you to like creating your immortality. Now, I'm going to pause this question. It's a theoretical question, right? I know myself, you know yourself. We know each other quite well for over 2 decades, right? We've changed quite a bit as people. Will the AI be able to predict how I would have changed in my 70s, 80s, 90s, hundreds, 200s to evolve me to that? Because I
Well,
make decision every day that impact. I could flip on a
what?
heartbeat and make an evil
Well,
decision tomorrow that would change completely who that persona is and that vision of me. Or, you know, what happened
no.
if you get into
Yeah.
more
Hey,
complex?
you can't ask questions and then just answer them yourself and then move on to the next fucking question before I even had a chance. Um, me and Scales used to run a podcast called the Kris and Scales Show, and I think it had a great vibes because we kind of got off like this all the time or whatever. But so one, probably we could make an AI pretty easily that would understand how humans' brains develop and the types of unpredictability, chaos, and uncertainty that gets introduced via dementia and things like that. Possibly, I think we could. Also, though, you're taking my question a little literally in that, okay, on the grieving issue, for instance, how is having an AI chatbot that much different than having a video of grandma or something like that that you play or some other thing?
You can't ask question to her. She wouldn't be able to answer you. You would
All
be
right, but
able
then
to like talk to
sure,
her day while you're going to college, and she wouldn't be able to tell you that she's so proud of you for graduating college and how you've
okay,
done well,
okay,
or even
uh
be
huh,
in a virtual world on a disc at your fucking graduation. Can we swear? Can we swear on this? Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
sure.
absolutely, dude. I've
Yeah.
been fucking dropping
I,
bombs the whole time.
I mean, like, I just see it. I can see it. Like, look, grandma, I'm graduating on stage. I couldn't have done this without my AI grandma.
So
It will happen.
you're suggesting that it might actually fuck up our human brains to be able to be in touch with the dead?
I think it's not the dead. It's an artificial intelligence version of the dead. It has nothing to do with the dead. It's what we think
No,
the
but
dead
the
will do.
person would be
It's
dead, and you're saying that would short circuit the grieving process. So you would essentially be
yes.
talking to a dead person.
It's not about talking to the dead person. It's about the psychology of what happened in us when we grieve and mourn death and move beyond that. And it's a natural part of life. And
Yep.
so if we remove something that has been programmed in our DNA for, I mean, now we know that there is a pre-Homo sapien group that existed and buried themselves in caves. So
Okay, okay.
we're
You know
a
what?
species that can think for 300,000 years. So
I
in
accepted
that,
your
we've grief.
I accepted your objection too quickly, actually. You said, oh, it's different than a video because you can't ask grandma questions and you can't do this and that. You're right. The technical capabilities are superior. But in terms of human evolution, like you're talking about right now, watching a video of grandma 10 years after she's died or 10 days after she's died, that sure short circuits the whole same
She
evolutionary
did. She
process as
didn't.
well.
No, 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 no. I don't agree. Like, I'll explain why. The video of grandma is a memory of a moment that you relive. Okay? Like, we're getting into spatial computing. If you paid attention, like WTC, uh, the Apple announcement on Monday, he clearly shows 3D memory. We'll be able to relive 3D memory. That is cool because and that exists, man. Think back to when you saw Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Like Decker is there. He looks at the card. He's reliving memory. They're not real, but it doesn't really matter. That's beyond that, right? So but the idea here is that you'll be able to relive 3D. So that brings you to that next stage of spatial and almost embracing. It's reliving. It goes into your memory and it brings back that moment to that celebrating the person that has moved on, right? But the
Yeah.
moment that you can interact with that person, that you can ask questions, that you can ask him about its past, what decision he made, how he made that decision, and maybe ask, I don't know what to do with my life. Should I follow the
Mhm.
family path and that sort of thing? Now that is influencing you. And there's uh, the ethics of that is the first part, but also psychologically, your
Yeah,
brain
man.
still
Yeah.
attached that person there. And so
I
it's
hadn't
okay.
gone down the path all the way. I hadn't thought this all the way through. You're right. It is a lot more
there's
complicated than it is on the surface.
But the reason why I've already thought about this is because there's not only this is the first not the first time that I had the conversation, but it's been in literature and it's been in like some episode of
Mhm.
Black Mirror or some fucking thing
Yeah.
that I don't
Yeah.
remember at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm sure somebody on Apple TV or something made an episode about this where they were debating it. And so we're getting there's a lot of conversation around ethics. And so ethics is fine, but the problem with ethics and values and everything else is that it's based on my life path and my choice. And so my values and my code of ethics is highly
Yeah.
different than somebody that lives in another demography that has grew up in a different market, that has different grew up under different code of belief at school,
Yeah.
indoctrination, and so on.
Totally, man.
And so, like to get back to the idea, I think the chatbot providing you stuff and helping you. By the way, that already exists, right? There's a
Yeah.
website called character.ai. Character.ai, you can create any persona. You can go and talk with Einstein. I can create you, train it over material, and it will be you. So character.ai already exists. They just raised $40 million dollars in the last 7 months. They're worth, I don't know, ridiculous amount of money, but they're one of the largest AI model. And I believe they used to use GPT and they moved to their own AI model, right? But that's character.ai. And that's what they do. It's you create persona, you put them there, you can ask them questions. Um, I mean,
Okay.
uh, yeah,
So we got about 10 minutes left, and I got a couple things I want to do here. One, you just lobbed me a softball, and I want to smash a home run. That is, you talked about Blade Runner, and you talked about Black Mirror, and I'm organizing the first ever international AI sci-fi film festival coming up
which is really
soon with
cool.
my buddy Scott on Hornby Island, and the idea is with all these questions, with all this uncertainty, with all this crazy fast-paced change, we're struggling to catch up and figure out how to think about it, but that's okay because, as you said, artists, authors have been dealing with this stuff in literature and films for a long fucking time. A lot of these things that people are asking themselves about and wondering, like even myself here around the immortality stuff, you're like, yeah, Kris, that's been solved 30 years ago by philosophers and
It's
artists.
not been solved. It's an ethic question that will continue for decades. I'm not saying nobody will do it. Like I'm 100% sure somebody will do it, and I
Yeah.
would probably do it. But there's still the debate of AI and the impact on society. Anyway, sorry, I'm going on a tangent.
Okay. No,
Continue.
you're doing great, man. You're doing great. My job here is to keep your positive energy pointed in the right direction. Um, okay. I want to do a couple quick hitter question and answer type things. So if you can, keep them short. But you're allowed to say why you choose the thing you choose. Bard or GPT.
Um, Too early to say. GPT is a model that is proven. Bard is a architecture that is innovative, that is quite interesting. They
That's a
serve
fucking
different
great answer.
purpose. They serve different purpose for the moment. I'm a big fan of Google. My Gmail account is my baby.
Yeah.
I have multiple accounts for everything that I do, and the integration with drives and all the other technology is seamless. So Bard will have its play. I don't think it's going to be one or the other. It'll be one and the other, the same way as if you're in the Apple ecosystem. If you paid attention on Monday,
And
Apple
Frank, you
didn't use
said,
artificial intelligence. They use machine learning. They use machine
right.
learning
Yeah.
4 times. And if you
Yeah.
know what you're talking about, you know that it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
already Apple didn't use the buzzword, but they told you that they're integrating everything and they're telling you that Siri is moving. I should not say the word because this will act, but instead of the saying a and the thing, now you can just go say the thing name, right?
Yeah.
And so that's changing. You can see that the entire environment and ecosystem is changing. And I don't see one AI versus another. I see them working in parallel for different things. The same
Well,
way as I'm
Frank,
using um, uh,
yeah.
the same way as I'm using Write Sonic for doing a lot of my writing, you know?
Yeah.
Like
All
Write
right, let's
Sonic
get
is
there.
another
Let's
AI.
get there.
Next.
Let's get there. Yeah, we're gonna get there. Also, Frank gave kind of a similar answer. His wasn't you can't tell yet, but his was like, I want to use both. I do one part of this job in Bard, and then I suck that back into OpenAI, get them looping back and forth, and yeah, so both. All right. Um, I'm sorry. Okay, question number two: image generation, text to image. So, Mid-journey, Dolly, or Stable Diffusion.
Different case study for each one of them. Um, I do a lot of stuff that is kind of like 60s,
Come on, bitch.
Andy
Choose
Warhol.
choose one and then give
What?
your start with an
All right.
answer.
If I have to choose one of them, Mid-journey. But Stable Diffusion is a tool for Mid-journey, so I don't see them in the same category. You can do a lot of stuff with Stable Diffusion that Mid-journey and DALL-E can't do. So, but if I have to choose
um,
between DALL-E and Mid-journey, I choose Mid-journey.
I like Mid-journey too. I also just I happen to like that it's on the Discord and it's using the command prompt. I know it won't be that way for long, but I have been enjoying that. It's kind of nerdy and fun. And um, okay, favorite AI writing tool.
That depends on the task. If you have money and you're paying for it, write Sonic. Like not even the one that we've talked, you know?
What's up with?
Um,
Tell us about Right Sonic.
and they're just a company that like build a model that is based on writing. Their bot are trained. You can use Bot Sonic to train your own Chat GPT on your own data. So if you want to do your bot, Chat Sonic is one of those, right? You can use their AI article writer, and now I'm giving my secret sauce. But if I blog, I use that because it's more structured. It's better for it. Um, so, like Frank, I'll go into ChatGPT. I create a persona. I do my prompt. I create a thing. I bring it into like Write Sonic. I tell it like this is my first draft. Rewrite it. Then I go into Grammarly and I clean it up. So,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
hey, Scales, I just want to remind you for a second. You said secret sauce, and I just want to remind you, it's not your blog posts that make you who you are. It's your ability to share knowledge who makes you who you are.
exactly.
So,
That's what I'm
so
saying.
don't,
Secret sauce.
yeah, Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do it. I
Oh,
sometimes walk up to that line too, and I just go smashing right over it. We got
I
to
mean,
tell the people how we do what we do so they can do it too, and we'll all keep moving forward together, man.
to be honest, what I would like to do at some point is one thing that we haven't talked today is I'm creating a series of 15 books that are made with Mid-journey and ChatGPT, and they're coloring books. They're coloring books for mature audience and adults, and they cover different specific topics. The first three books are AI and
Ingenious.
robotics. The
Very, very,
second
very
one
smart.
is scuba diving, ocean conservation. The third one is canoe camping. Those are my first three passions in life. So I already have my 15 topics. They're ISBN, IBSN, like registered and all that. And so I've generated, this is my stealth project. So you wanted me
This
to
is
like
my
talk.
this is my mind blown face. This is me being like, yeah,
I mean,
that makes
if we could
fucking
share a
sense. Of
screen
course
with
you
this,
did.
oh, we can share a screen with this thing. But
Let's
anyway,
just wrap
um,
this fucker up, dude. I gotta go. My brain's
the
gonna
idea
leak out
anyway.
my ear, dude.
Yeah, the idea is like you can use a lot of technology to do what you want, but you can use Midjourney, remove all the colors, just have the line, and voila, you have your coloring book. And I come from a
Yeah.
family of colorists. My sister loved coloring, my dad loved coloring. So that's part of it. And with COVID, mental health, like KK is talking, this is something that is to art to both of us, um,
How
it's
much
really
time do I
important.
have?
Yeah.
I did want to.
Anyway, so,
I did want to get your feedback on the mental health thing before I fucking let you go. You up for
well,
it?
we can talk more about this. Like,
Are
I
you up
have
for it,
time.
bud? Okay,
Yeah,
just
yeah, man. I have another like
let's just spend.
12 minutes if we want.
Yeah, me too. I have a call in as well. Hold on one sec. I think it's right here. All right. Oops, not quite right there. Do I cut this part out? Do I leave it in? Here's my prompt, more or less. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, for fuck's sake. I guess I'll have to bring it back another time. I wrote this journal entry and I want to analyze and summarize it and to make sense of it daily. Look at it from the perspective of a life coach, a financial analyst, a motivational speaker, a harsh critic, a psychologist, and a loving girlfriend. Give me your advice and interpretations. Also provide an overall summary. Can I? So that's what I've been working with. I've been dictating my journals to it in the morning. I've been essentially like journaling out loud, and then I run that through Otter AI and get a transcript, and then I run it through this little GPT prompt. So, you
Hmm.
do anything like that?
We do something similar to that for camping. So what we do is from the phone, we record voice to text,
Yeah,
input text into GPT, but you can go straight to voice. But I find like I prefer doing it on my phone on a separate app because maybe I'll do different things in it and I don't want to go straight to GPT. So yeah, so you do your voice to text, you start talking about your ideas, then you start feeding the ideas to like we have a channel that is based for like canoe camping or expert programming like advisors for canoe camping and all that. And so we toss in the content there, and then from there we say, all right, we want to do a Facebook post, a post that will go on our LinkedIn page, and from there, add a post as well that we'll use as our blog post for this. And so now we've created kind of a process. So when we're going on a trip, we can talk about the pre-trip planning, the trip,
yeah.
some activities that we did, coming back, and everything else. So you can set up your structure in there in one way or another.
Where's the channel where you drop that? You said you drop it on a channel. Where do you do that?
In my Chat GPT Plus, I find
Mm-hmm.
that that's my because with Chat GPT Plus, what I
So
find is
when you say channel here, you mean a chat
a
instance
conversation
on?
chat. Yeah,
Yeah, cool,
conversation chat.
great,
Yeah.
perfect. That's what I want to know. All right, dude. What else you want to talk about here? We got 5 minutes open mic time.
Um, yeah. I'll be honest. I've been enjoying watching the runs that you've been doing because there's some really interesting conversation and there's some really awesome points. And I've been on your server, like on the Discord server for quite a while. And now it's cool. We're like about 150 people and it's quite active, like Greg Heller and a bunch of other cool cats on that place and sharing. And so I like the fact that we're moving into a open source AI collective world where people are
Yeah.
sharing and building. And it'll be interesting to see how much companies are going to move beyond the I'm so scared that you're going to steal my idea and just go into the phase of like, hey, that's cool. You can do that. You have an app that can do that. Let's work together and let's build
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
I want to see more of the open source mentality coming out into the creative economy because I think a lot of artists are scared, a lot of writers are scared, a lot of content producers are scared. And so
Mm.
if there's a way that we can do some education, like my process for doing my children's book, once I got it out and I got the first one and my case study is starting to prove, I would love to record it and show it because I think it's a
Yeah.
great idea. It's a great format, like,
Yeah.
and it's not that hard. Like, I showed you earlier. Oh, no, I didn't show you. Like, I was talking to somebody else. But the way I work on this project is I work on my purchase time. So whenever I have somebody canceling an appointment or something, I just work on a project and start
Yeah.
working on it. And, it's cool because that gives me a reason to kind of move on to something else. So I guess that's
Hey,
the thing that
Professor,
yeah,
you're amazing. Thanks for spending some time with me, dude. Thanks for dropping knowledge on the internet. I'm really
yeah,
glad we've been reconnecting over these last few months. We both have another meeting in a few minutes. Mine's with a doctor, so I need to make sure I'm there.
yeah, cool.
Cool. Well, love you long time. Where can we find you online?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Robert Scales, and
Yeah, you've been crushing the
that's
LinkedIn
where I
lately.
hang out. I hate the other
Yeah.
social network. I'm not a big fan of. I'm keeping my Twitter, but I don't know. Somebody want to buy Scales? Scales on
Can
Twitter
we
for
can
cheap.
we do this again soon? Can we do this again soon?
I think we should do this and be able to share screen so I can do a show and tell of a couple of things because that would be
You
fun.
got
I
it.
think. Yeah,
All right. Next week we got a scale show and tell coming right up. Over now for now, internet.
something like that. Thanks.
Bye.
See you later, crew.
How do I press stop? There it is.